In the name of God, hello all. Because of some limitations in political relationship between US and Iran, I couldn't get the US visa, but I am pleasure for attending to the conference virtually. The title of my paper is Development Projects as Hegemonic Projects, Analysis of the Functions of Imagineering Policies in Psyches. Introduction. Development projects and city expansion programs have had important and multidimensional achievements in contemporary cities. Not only construction and development projects have apparent and useful achievements, but also there are hidden and harmful sequences which are more effective in forming values and behavioral patterns and citizens' identities today. Development projects, in addition to their physical aspects, have effective social and cultural dimensions. In most cases, they secure the purposes and demands of the rich and hegemonic men. It can be argued that their social and cultural sequences are more important than their physical services. Most of the time, urban managers, urban planners, and municipalities may coordinate their actions with imagineering policies unconsciously and on limitation and copying the appearance of developed cities. However, consciously or unconsciously, the harmful sequences of these social physical constructions influence the identity, behavioral patterns, and cultural structure of society. Most information required for the study was based upon informant people's information or other observations. Also, the information in various official resources was used. Imagineering includes strategies and practices of urban planners and managers who create a living imagination of citizens. Applying these strategies in developing cities, they pursued citizens to ignore urban deficiencies and shortcomings thereof imagineering. The cities towing the label of world city have popular image and try to induce the imagination of moving towards socio-economic development among citizens through spreading meta-local identities for cities and citizens, causing urban planners and managers use scenery and interesting urban surprise to induce that these cities are developing, close to modern and developed, while they have no connection with modern and world cities. Urban administrations do not follow real and infrastructural development of cities, but try to represent these cities as developed ones. Imagineering leaders believe that the label world cities is a permanent feature of heterogeneous cities such as Mumbai, Shenzhen, Birmingham, Houston, Charlotte, and North Carolina. The urban environment is like a canvas that runs on its hegemonic projects and imagineering policies. Place, investment, and imagineering are fundamental elements of a city's physical appearance and global quality. They also have important role in motivating to hold festival, sport events, buildings, parks, squares, and roads, and even neighborhood has symbolic meaning. These constructions and economic projects are hegemonic policies in which economic and political groups, classes, and coalitions reproduce their authority and hide their ineffective management in urban areas. Imagineering creates parks, entertainment centers, and shopping malls. These places are where the citizens become mere consumers more than ever. Citizens' mind becomes so affected by bombardment of signs, seduction of shopping mall, phantasmagoria, so that they cannot recognize the hegemony around. Therefore, they reproduce the abnormal situation repeatedly, continuously, and unconsciously. According to the Wallace, 1985, parks are places for classical grandstanding throughout, a place favored to boasting and indication of distinction through excessive consumption. Urban facilities, in addition to the physical aspect, include a spread of social and hegemonic messages and meaning. The symbols and meanings have important role in forming identity, thinking, behavior, and value patterns. Archer believes that urban facilities and physical construction are also social phenomena and live realities. Also, a study on the role of branding in local and national strategies of economic development indicated that local branding system not only shapes the place within a customer's mental framework, but also has an important function in shaping individuals' identity. The current study tries to investigate how urban planners and managers, consciously or unconsciously, induce imagineering policies to citizens and how they hide their mismanagement and poor decisions through these policies. And what are the consequences of imagineering policies for citizens in Sakis? And what are the functions of imagineering policies in Sakis? Definition of main concepts. Number one, Imagineering. The term of Imagineering was invented by Walt Disney Studios to describe the composition of imagination with engineering in order to create dream and fantasy reality. Although some imagineering aspects are studied in management of identity, many political aspects are neglected. Although urban buildings follow economic purposes to some extent, they are not only limited to the production of capital and health and wealth. They follow certain definition and clear interpretation for cities. This process is hidden behind such projects and can apply its political power to citizens' behaviors and mind through its dominant view and values such as cosmopolitanism, global relations, and creation of wealth in transnational capitalism. Number two, hegemony. Hegemony, usually defined by Antonio Gramsci, Italian and Marxist thinker, referred to domination of a class not only economically but also socially, politically, and ideologically. He believes that domination of capitalists is not satisfied only with economic factors, but their domination needs to political power and ideological systems to satisfy the dominated class. The functions of Imagineering. Imagineering policies, like any social phenomena, have positive, negative, apparent, and hidden functions. Considering the fact that sociology is naturally a critical science, and it believes that critique is a unique instrument for indication of defects, the current study tried to assess and indicate negative and hidden functions of Imagineering in its role in the spirit of consumerism, making mass society, reduction of thinking, reproduction of hegemonic domination, and hiding the inefficiency of urban planners. First function of Imagineering is Imagineering as a cover on urban defects. World city projects are not only economic frameworks, but also they are becoming increasingly a special ethical approach and thus part of globalization. More important element of spirit of cosmopolitanism ideals is what Calhoun calls consumerist cosmopolitanism that is shown via strong cultures in the form of food, tourism, music, literature, and clothes. Calhoun, 2001. Christopher Lasch uses multiculturalism to express this topic. He believes that global market, which could be understood as various food patterns, different clothes, exotic music, and various tribal customs as King Grant is an index of tourist approach to the world. Thanks to globalization, no one have to travel to various areas for consuming. World city is a city which comes toward you and is available for you in street. For example, an international festival. Lasch and Calhoun had understood class aspects of cosmopolitanism. Consumption is a cultural index of urban new middle class, and the new class follow consumerism and postmodern cultural goods such as museum, concerts, and festival, and all symbolic goods and patterns available every moment through commercial shops. The real purpose of hegemonic urban projects is that these projects become a setting for providing consumerism needs of cosmopolitan people in global neoliberalism system. Sakis is the second largest city in Kurdistan province after Sanandaj as a center of province in Iran. A large number of youth, more than 10,000 students, study at various universities of Sakis. Most of them are unemployed. Almost every family has at least one educated unemployed youth. Unemployed youth waste the major part of their time in streets and shopping centers, so they are faced with bombardment of signs sent via presenting goods such as clothes, makeup, food, and entertainment products. Unemployment of youth and teenagers due to lack of income and purchasing power leads to frustration and depression. Studying this problem is not the goal of the study, but we only tried to present a whole configuration from the city. In addition to employment challenge, we are also faced with increased marriage age, which causes serious challenge. However, any traveler who enters the town faces different images in contrast to the real image state about the city. A large number of shops, various and luxe shopping malls, chain stores, and fascinating showcases are the dominant image of Sakis for newcomers. An informant commented, "There are more than 4,000 shopping centers in Sakis, many of which are surplus to the needs of citizens, assuming the city population and purchasing power of citizens. The last major of building which was built via the contribution of the municipal and an investor is the shopping mall called West Diamond, have more than 280 stores in 5 stories, cost more than uh, uh, 670,000 US dollar. In the so-called building, only the ground floor and the first floor stores are sold and the other are empty. The average price of each shop is more than 170,000 US dollar, and higher costs are reported in the public sale for it. Alan and Dilan Shopping Center called has also the same fate. It has 3 stories and about half of the shops are empty. Adani Shopping Center has a more deplorable situation, and less than half of the stores are in use. These are only a few of dozens failed constructions in the city that have imposed heavy costs on citizens. The main question is why city funds were not used appropriately and applied for equipping and prosperity of city factories. Why many decorated shopping malls and city centers were constructed, having no economic justification but having negative consequences for economic and cultural aspects. Second function of Imagineering policies in Cyprus is consumerism. Consumerism is the severe tendency to have goods and services a person may not able to give them, and such tendency grows in a culture in which having goods and certain lifestyle creates excellence and social prestige. Consumption in the contemporary world has defined itself as a religion of the world, and the family is the incarnate temple of that religion. Nowadays, consumption is not limited to the essential needs and goods, but it is effective in formatting identities. Contemporary man makes his identity through his selections among signs and symbols of different productions such as clothing, cosmetic goods, entertainment plays, restaurants, so on. According to the Marx and Engels, as prophetically 115 years ago in Manifest of Communist Party about the increasing spread of consumption in capitalism society. According to the Marx and Engels, it can be argued that after securing needs of human, capitalism tries to create new needs for people through diversity in type, color, quality, and specialization, and accordingly puts people in vortex of needs that does not end. In the other words, contemporary man becomes more and more consumerist and dependent on market. One of the clear features of Imagineering is attention to creation and spread of external grace of marketing centers as consumption tools. Urban managers and planners increasingly try to create entertainment and consumption centers to secure the goal. The goods consumer distribution centers are consumption tools. Nowadays, there are numerous and different consumption tools such as shopping malls, large markets, cheap wholesale, entertainment center, restaurant, and so on. The consumption of the conception of consumption tool is originate from Marx, but he, like many other modern theorists, focused deeply on production. Nowadays, production can be separated from consumption. In fact, every day it is added to the importance of consumption. Many people work in service jobs related to consumption, and also many of them allocate much of their spare time to consumption. Marx defines production tools as goods related to consumption. He also defines consumption tools as goods related to individual consumptions of the capitalist and worker class. In the other words, consumption tools provide services to people and cause people to be in control and exploit them as consumerists. It can be argued that imaginary policies spread consumerism among people through expanding consumption and consumption tools. Consumerism that is expanding through imaginary run through another phenomenon is analyzed in the following. The mechanism of consumerism in seconds. The spread of consumerism is done via two main processes: a bombardment of sign and seduction. Bombardment of signs. Baudrillard believes that goods are a system of signs which organize social world via giving identity to the human and things. He considers natural needs and human work as factors of movement in history. He emphasizes on the structuralism of society based on symbolic and linguistic meanings. He emphasizes on signs and symbols as a system of domination in addition to their identity role. Now, the main problem is not exploitation and benefits, but the domination of signs and their productive systems. Signs were used to refer to the real things, but no signs imply only themselves and other signs, and in fact they are self-referential. Various malls and markets drove presentation of various products, attractive showcases, attractive packaging, and glamorous lighting of exhibits expose the consumers to signs and symbols, and as a result, bombardment of signs take place. In bombardment of signs, minds and perception of consumers are continually shot with signs and iconic products. This bombardment is done through shopping malls, markets, perfect lighting, and attractive packaging along with great advertisements. This increase consumerism among citizens, especially among youth and teenagers. Bombardment of signs is done via two ways: consumption tool and media, especially satellite programs. Number two, seduction. Consumers almost know that some of their shopping and patterns of purchase are not necessary, but they have recreational aspects. Certainly, some people know that some part of their consumptions is based on habitation and limitation. Habitation and imitation, excuse me. The question is that why a person who is aware of his consumer behavior continues this and does not try to change his consumption style. To answer the question, we can refer to Zygmunt Bauman and the concept of seduction, which is presented in his thought. He believes that social control is applied in different ways in the modern and postmodern era. In the modern age, intellectuals create an ideology which satisfies politics and goals of dominant groups. In the postmodern age, dominant groups do not need intellectuals legitimize their domination because social control is based on seduction, not repressive proceedings and or common cultural values. In the contemporary age, market guarantees social solidarity. Market guarantees social solidarity and institutional loyalty of citizens. Needs tendencies, identities, and social styles are linked to consumption. Goods are designed in such a way that they create illusions and hopes which seduce social actors, and through this way social actors expect conformity to society. Bauman uses seduction for social control, but we believe seduction is a type of mania and dizziness. Actually, it is a swamp that citizens get imprisoned in its through bombardment of science, power of consumption tool, external explosion, and phantasmagoria of consumption temples. Seduction creates this image among consumers who cannot tolerate even within one day without one-day presence in temples of consumptions or bombardment of science. These people are like an addict that spending a day without drug is as death for her. To cut the story short, consumerism is affected by mass production of consumer products. Production of goods cannot merely lead to consumption, but the supply of these products and advertisements have important roles in consumption of mass products of factories. The basic tool of introduction of products is bombardment of science done through consumption tools and media. Consumption tool performs bombardment of science via internal exploration and creation of phantasmagoria. Media also can do the task of advertise and make the consumer products attractive through different programs. The consequences of consumerism in connection with Imagineering. In this section, we will study a complex process in which Imagineering policies lead to reproduction of hegemonic domination of Imagineering and goals of urban planners and managers via a spread of consumerism. Consumerism may reproduce Imagineering policies by three phenomena: mass society, decrease of critical thinking, and reproduction of hegemonic domination. Thank you for your attention.